But this step is somewhat precise, so I just wanted to show you how I do it with this same, like, platform, the same tool. I don't use the cutter, but I use this straight edge. So I push my paper against the straight edge, fold it over, and then I just line the corners up visually. As long as they're pretty close. And then what you want to do is, because this paper, at least mine, is like somewhat thick, you might not be able to fold it as you would a regular piece. I would fold like part of it and then, try to keep this line back here, and then just put your whole hand across it. Once you kind of have to wrestle with it a little, but once you've got a good seam there, another part of this same tool, which is the magnet piece, I will use this edge here and just drag it across, and as long as you're not making like a mark in your paper and messing up your design, you don't want to push like super hard, but you want a pretty sharp edge. So we're just going to blast. I folded them from the topmost page. The booklet was open, and then I just put them in this stack just like this, and this makes it really easy because then I'm just opening the front cover, putting this in, opening the next one, and so forth. You don't really have to think about it, as long as you line those up correctly. One time I had them flipped in some weird orientation before I started folding them, and then they were all folded in reverse, so like inside out, and that was kind of painstaking. I was able to recover that one, but you might have one of those booklets that it was handled a little more. It received a little more love than the rest of the booklets. So after this, I've already done several, visual checks, but you might as well keep doing checks to make sure the last page is where it's supposed to be. You have your blank pages correctly. There's no upside down pages. Anything can happen. Then you want to tap the whole booklet down. I want the bottom edge to be as uniform as possible, because then I could avoid cutting one of the edges. If this bottom edge is super well done, I shouldn't have to cut anything, so I might handle it a little at this stage. Sometimes it helps to open it a little. You want them all to be in the middle, but it can help when you're tapping it down. And this looks pretty good. Just hold it, feel it, see how it looks, and make sure there's nothing majorly wrong with it before we staple it. Alright, so we just folded all of these pages, and I've gotten it tapped down pretty good on the bottom. Obviously, the more you handle it between tapping it and stapling it, you might have some pages shift around. Generally, this type of paper, I have this double-sided photo paper. It has a lot of friction, so once you kind of put them together and fold them, it pretty much maintains its shape. This particular stapler, it's one of the, I think it's called like a long neck stapler. It goes in so past where a normal stapler would, so you could have a pretty massive booklet, like double this size, and still staple it with this. It does have markings, a ruler, centimeters, so you can mark where you want to staple each time. I've just used a marker, so these dark lines are where I want to put my edge. So if I see a white line, I just push it forward. This will shift around as you move the stapler around. It's not that precise. But the one thing that's frustrating about this particular design, I don't know if it's probably all staplers, but it has this 0 marking, and that should be exactly where the staple is going to go in. But when the stapler is on a surface and then you put your paper on top of it, you're not going to be able to see that. So pretty much just trial and error. You want like an example, maybe an example front cover that's exactly the same size as your book. Put that through the stapler on the same straight edge, and then, you know, just do a test. You don't want it to be directly on this sharp edge. You want it to actually be slightly towards the front, and I'll show you how a good staple should look. Let me just make sure the book's good. All right. Also, this part, you don't want to be like too particular about how the book is folding or whatever. It's going to look like I'm crushing it kind of, but it's fine for my purposes with watch. So I'm going to smush it and then check to see how that ended up. It's only a couple millimeters past the sharp edge, which is good, because if it's right on the sharp edge, you're going to have issues with like opening and folding pages. I go right next to Mini-Me in the head area. Alright. Okay, good. So, I mean, just give it another look after you staple it. You should still have a good flat bottom like you had. And then one thing we're going to look at right now before we do any cutting or anything, you'll see that all the middle pages are coming out. So we're going to cut there, and I'm definitely going to cut a little off of the top here as well. But I should be good without cutting the bottom probably. Stapling, you want to kind of manhandle it a little, like it's going to have like a weird crease because of where we kind of smushed it. So I would just, you know, get it on the ground, and you're going to want to like reinforce the, you know, main seam just by pushing on it, and it'll get more flat like after a couple seconds. It's not a huge process. And then I would also do like a quick visual check of like how it's coming through, because if you do go either right on the middle, or if you're like way off axis, then like if you open it, sometimes like some of the pages fold in a weird way. But if you've got it right near the spine but not on the spine, it should be pretty good. Like this page would have problems usually if I stapled it too far off. Know how to actually do this. I have a whole huge long video that includes the paper cutter, information about the printer, and the software I use on the Mac, so you can make one of these yourself.